Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Shy Girl Speaks. I am your host, Jacqueline and I will be the certified yapper in your ear for the next hour or so, maybe a little bit less until I get the hang of it, because I truthfully do not know how this is going to go, but I figured that I've always wanted to have a solo podcast, and this was my opportunity to just kind of go for it. My voice is already shaking. Already go for it and dive right in because I don't know. I did my hair, I did my makeup, and for those audio listeners, you will not see me unless you go onto YouTube and you type Shy Girl Speaks podcast. I will have every single one of these episodes recorded and up on there. And if you guys also want to follow my personal channel, I will be sharing updates and sharing every single episode from the Shy Girl Speaks podcast onto my community tab, which will be really fun. And I also have some really cool videos that are coming up this year. As of now, I have a London travel vlog that I am editing. It's been 2 months since I went to London, but no matter. I feel like I will touch base on some of the things that I talk about in this episode on those videos. So go ahead and check those out. They will more than likely already be on my channel. And without further ado, I do want to take some time to kind of take this opportunity and present myself like if it was a first date. So you're going to get to know me a little bit more before I start spilling all my deep, dark secrets and maybe more. I really want this podcast to be a safe space where my girls can come on here and kind of like almost take it as a FaceTime call with your bestie, or maybe just a phone call if you're an audio listener. And I want to give you all the updates, the good, the bad, the ugly, how being in my 20s has really kicked my butt and also brought me some of the greatest pleasures in life that I could have ever imagined. And I'm going to keep it really real and raw and honest with you guys because I love people who keep it real, raw, and honest. And that is the goal for this episode. And that is the goal for this podcast. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about myself. I was born in Tucson, Arizona, but I now live in South Texas. So I've been here for 10 years now, and I will say the culture has been slightly different, but not really. And I really want to do an episode where I touch base on all of the culture shock that I experienced when I moved here to the Valley, because it was something that I wasn't expecting, especially coming from a southern border town in Arizona to coming to southern Texas. It was just way different, way more than I was expecting. So I really want to do an episode where I explain that and also touch base on why I love both places so much and why they're so near and dear to my heart. I'm an Aries, and take that with a grain of salt. If you don't like Aries, I don't want to hear it. Give me a chance. I still live at home with my family, and whenever they get close, I get really, really shy. Even though I've been creating content for over 10 years, it is something that is still very, very, it's a sore subject. I don't let them watch my videos when I'm in the house. I don't let them watch anything really that I'm in if I'm in their presence. And if I'm filming, they need to be as far away from me as possible, just because it is so awkward and so embarrassing. And same thing goes with like so many of my friends and my boyfriend. I get so awkward and uncomfortable whenever they see me filming. So it's something I also have to work on. And if you guys have any tips on how to simply not care, please let me know, because that is another thing that I want to touch base on. And the reason why this is Shy Girl Speaks is because there was a point where I was so shy that I absolutely wouldn't do anything in front of anyone. And there was a point in my life where I probably wouldn't have even started this podcast because I was so shy and I didn't want people knowing that I existed. I've been working in social media marketing or just creating content for over 10 years, and it wasn't officially my job until 2021. This was actually after COVID. So I got my very first marketing position at my university. And from there, the rest was history. I got another job at another marketing agency. And then I decided that I really wanted to pursue my own passions. And I started Jacqueline Media in 2023. And it's been the best 2 years ever. I work with so many clients here in the Rio Grande Valley. And I've even worked with clients outside of the Valley, outside of Texas, which has been an eye-opening experience for sure. Running and managing a business is no joke. And running a business in social media marketing is even more of not a joke, because with so many things that are evolving and changing and the algorithm and, apps coming and going, apps being banned and apps changing everything that having to do with their algorithm. It's been interesting and it's been a journey, but I wouldn't have wanted any other job in the world. I think about it really, really often. And I wonder if I had not been a social media marketer or a content creator, what would my passion be? And I just don't know. I've always been drawn to the world of fashion and modeling. And I was obviously, the entertainment industry, but I've never been talented enough to be an actor or a singer or a musician. So I've always stuck to stuff behind the camera and occasionally in front of the camera, which I do want to share some of those stories as well. But social media content creation to me is more than just getting a clip and uploading it and hoping it goes viral. I've always been very much intentional with my storytelling throughout social media because I just love stories. I love story times. I love listening to folklore. I love all of those things having to do with storytelling. And I figured that this was one of the main reasons I wanted to start my very own podcast, because I've had podcasts before. I actually had a podcast with a friend of mine and things just didn't work out, but I've always felt the calling to share my stories. And whenever I'm with a group of friends or with a friend or with a family member, I love to recount stories with the most amount of detail. And I think that is what makes things very interesting. And of course, with social media, you have to keep things between 30 seconds or a minute and 30 seconds. And sometimes that just doesn't cut it for this yapper. So I decided a podcast was the way to go because I love storytelling through any sort of content, whether it's video, audio, photos, anything. I'm there for content. Now, a little bit about me and my background. I graduated from university in 2022 with a degree in mass communication with a focus in advertising and public relations. And originally my goal was to go and become this grand journalist. I used to listen to a lot of podcasts. Specifically, my very first podcast that I ever listened to was by Noor Tagore. I believe that's her name. If not, she's an award-winning journalist, and her podcast documentary, I don't know what you would call that, piqued my interest back my very first year of college. And I was already going to school for mass communication, but that one was like, wow, I want to go into reporting. Sure enough, everything that I want, I kind of set my mind to, and I don't stop until I get it, whether I like it or not. And in this case, I landed my very first job ever with my university newspaper. And I'll tell you one thing, it was not what I was expecting in the best and worst way possible. In the best way possible, I made so many friends, some of those that I still have today, and that their friendship and their mentorship just means everything in the world to me. And then worse was my experience at my first job was really stressful for a first job. And my very first position at the student paper was copy editor. Copy editors were in charge of reviewing the stories, making sure that all of the facts were correct, checking for grammatical mistakes, yada, yada, yada. And I honestly learned how to be a great writer. And to this day, I have PTSD whenever I use the wrong punctuation mark, I see somebody use the wrong word, or if I just simply can't get my point across in the shortest amount of time possible, which is why this is so funny because I'm a certified yapper, but on writing, I get everything done so concisely. I had that position for 2 years and it was pretty laid back. I will say my busiest days out of the week were Thursdays because that was the night that all of the reporters submitted their stories for review, and then I sent it over to the editor. Then he would put it together on Adobe Illustrator. And the next day, the newspaper would be printed, and then it would go out on Monday morning. And then I thought that was the hardest thing I could have possibly done at the newspaper until 2020 rolled around. And I was kind of asked to step up into the editor-in-chief position at the newspaper. And I had never even written an official story as a reporter for the newspaper, even though at the time my focus, my concentration in my major was actually journalism. It was print journalism. And I had written various stories on different events and people as homework, but never actually as a reporter for the newspaper. I kind of got word that there was more than likely going to be an opening for editor-in-chief position. And like I said, I had never written an official hard news story. I had written some columns about Kobe Bryant and his passing, about my experience moving from Arizona to Texas, but never anything with actual hard news. And for whatever reason, that really did scare me and startle me. And on top of that, when you're editor in chief, you run the newsroom, essentially. It was something that I didn't really know if I wanted to do or not. But one thing about me, and I don't know if it's the Aries in me or if it's just me, honestly, just kind of always trying to push myself to my limits, I said, you know what? I'll interview for it. And if I don't get it, if I'm not the most qualified person for it, then I will respect it and I will gladly be a copy editor for as long as time will allow me to be. Sure enough, I got selected. And then that year that I became editor in chief was, of course, the year of COVID. And something that nobody prepared me for was that I was writing all of these stories of the death toll, about how hopeless that time seemed. And all the while we're in lockdown, I'm sitting at my desk probably 14 to 18 hours out of the day at that point because I'm taking classes, I am running the newsroom, I am doing interviews, I am writing my stories, and I'm by myself. I was by myself that entire year, as many people were. And something that I was not prepared for was the mental toll that writing about death and law and how people are being affected by everything going on in the world just really sits with me. Call me empathetic or just call me weak, but I couldn't handle it for more than a year. And after a year, I decided that as much as I really grew and I learned, I could not, for my mental health, stay at a newspaper. And it was around that time where I had this whole mental reset where I realized I also did not want to go into journalism anymore. That podcast I had listened to in my first year of college just suddenly felt like not a bad thing, but I learned that in that moment, it was way more than I was expecting. And I had to give that journalist more props than I already did because she was out there in the middle of a war reporting on things that she was seeing and the inhumane treatment of people from other people. And now I'm sitting in my room seeing somewhat of a glimpse of what that could be. And I realized that I could just never get to that level. And I decided to leave the newspaper and still wanted to work at school. I felt that, working at school was the best thing for me. And if you are watching this and you're younger or you're in college, I highly, highly, highly recommend getting an on-campus job, something relating to your major or maybe just something that is on campus in general, because they work so well with your schedule. And if you're a student and you want to focus on graduating in X amount of years or an X amount of time, work an on-campus job. Now, it is not the most money that you can make, and I do recognize that. But if you are really somebody who is focused on your studies, that's the way to go. So if you are going to any university that offers work study, take that opportunity, because had it not been for work study, I wouldn't have landed my first job or my second job, which was working for university marketing and communications. So I kind of try to keep it within the realm of communications, especially because I had just switched my concentration from print journalism to public relations and advertising, which was a complete jump from one to the other. And I'm a great writer. I dot my I's and cross my T's. And I also love to get the facts straight. So I ended up working at marketing and communications. And again, if you are in South Texas, or if you're going to UTRGV, or if you're going to any school really that has a marketing and communications department, and you are working in anything having to do with communications, marketing, public relations, and advertising, that is the best experience you will get, hands down. Had it not been for my job at school, I wouldn't have come across the world of digital marketing and fallen in love with it. So I went from journalism, which is all unbiased, you have to present all of the facts and you have to say it for what it is, to advertising and public relations, which is pretty much you have a product, you have a person, you have to display this person or this product in the best light possible. And you can, somewhat tweak the information. You can decide to avoid the other side, and you don't have to present an unfair or unbiased perception of something, which really made it really hard for me to kind of get into this space at first. But once I got the hang of it, I realized that I was able to do a little bit of both with marketing. And with marketing, you really want to present your client. I'm not going to get into this because I feel like that could be an entirely different video on marketing and yada, yada, yada. This is my story and I've already been talking for 20 minutes. All of that to say, I found my passion with digital marketing while I was in college. And then I really didn't last long after I graduated until I decided that I wanted to do my own thing and branch out and start Jacqueline Media Agency. And I'm honestly really proud of myself. And there's been times where I don't always feel that way, which I can obviously touch base on later in different episodes. But for the time being, I know that what I'm doing is really, really hard and that it's not going to be easy at times, but I'm willing to put the work in and really just hone in on this experience of entrepreneurship, as new and as difficult and as annoying as it may seem sometimes. Now that I've kind of given an entire yap sesh on who I am and a little bit of my background, I want to talk about the present now. I want to talk about Shy Girl Speaks and the podcast and why I decided to name it Shy Girl Speaks, why I decided podcast, and why I decided now. I went back and forth on the name of this podcast for such a long time. I knew that I wasn't going to start this podcast until I had an official name. So it's been something that I've been wanting to do for a year and a half, but it wasn't until February of this year, so February of 2025, when I was driving one day and I said, you know what, I think I have a name. It was not the name. I don't know what it was, but it was definitely not the name. I don't even want to tell you guys because it was so awful. And if you guys take that name from me, I will actually do bad things to you because you could come up with a better name, I promise. About a week or so later, I was sitting down at my desk and I was really kind of feeling this creative block, I guess. I felt like I had hit a wall with just my creativity in general. One thing about working and creating content all the time is that when it comes to creating content for yourself, sometimes it's just really hard to create anything and it's easier to just kind of put that on the back burner. But I remembered that I really, really wanted to do something for myself and I wanted to start a new project. So I sat down, I started mapping out my entire podcast, but the name was missing. So I kept going back and forth. I even put on ChatGPT, please come up with a clever and interesting podcast title for a 25-year-old girl who is a business owner, who is shy, who is yada, yada, yada. And the options were horrendous. And so I was like, you know what? Maybe I can just sit down, use my own brain and write down a list of things that describe me, a list of things that I like, and just kind of see if anything pops out. So the very first word I used to describe myself was shy. And I thought that was interesting because for the very first time in many, many years, I don't describe myself as shy. And I feel like I've had to step out of my comfort zone, especially in the last 2 years since I became a business owner. I could no longer be shy. It was a matter of going up to people, facing rejection, and having to put yourself in a position that would once make me extremely uncomfortable. But I could not describe myself as shy anymore, which I thought, why did I put that as my very first word? And I feel like deep down, I've always considered myself to be a very shy person, but I no longer was. So I kind of kept that in mind, did a couple hours of brainstorming and still nothing. So I put that away. I came back the very next day and I texted my friend. I woke up and first thing I texted my friend was, Shy Girl Speaks. And she was like, what? And I was like, Shy Girl Speaks. I think that's going to be the name of my podcast. And she was like, I like it. Of course, I have great friends, friends that will literally say they like anything or they agree to anything, even though it is the worst sounding name or anything. But I really did feel like Shy Girl Speaks was calling my name. So I told myself, okay, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to go about my business and I'm going to see if I can see myself moving forward with that name. And sure enough, a week later, I was telling everybody, I'm going to start a podcast and it's going to be called Shy Girl Speaks. Now, Shy Girl Speaks was to pay homage to the shy girl that once was and who sometimes creeps inside of me in like the most interesting and random places. But ultimately, I want to take this opportunity to showcase any of my fellow shy girls listening out there that it is possible to break out of your shell. And the only thing holding you back from achieving your dreams is that self-doubt that you have inside of you that makes you shy. And I was filled with so much self-doubt, and I still am at times, but it is what made me shy. And I realized like once I am no longer shy or show that I'm shy, then I have no choice but to kind of pretend that I'm confident and go through with all of my plans like if I was confident and no longer be known as the shy girl. Now, to give you context, there was this one time, and my parents love to tell this story to anybody that they can. I was so shy that I lost a brand new TV. And at the time, this must have been like 2012, 2013. So flat screen TVs were, and you were, if you had, sorry, for the audio listeners, I basically just said you were rich if you had a flat screen TV. And I was at this event. I think it was a fundraiser for one of my friends or multiple friends who played softball. It was this, gala that they had. And so everybody got a raffle ticket on arrival. And I got one, let's say it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. And so my brother got 1, 2, 3, 5. My mom got 1, 2, 3, 6. And my dad got 1, 2, 3, 3. I kind of set that up horribly, but imagine there's 4 tickets. And let's say there's ticket 1, there's ticket 2, there's ticket 3, and there's ticket 4. I had 2. Now, at this event, again, I am in 7th grade. Maybe I'm in 6th grade. I don't know, but I was really young. And there were boys at this event and cute boys at that age. And I remember thinking, like, I don't even want to talk to any of my friends. I want to kind of stay in my own little bubble because I do not want to be perceived by anybody, nor do I want anybody talking to me. So the time of the raffle finally comes. It's the end of the night and they're giving out these grand prizes. But one of the bigger prizes was a blank inch TV, flat screen TV. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty nice TV. I wasn't sitting with my parents. I was sitting across the room, the event center, with my friends, but I could see my parents and my little brother. And now they call out ticket 2, which is, again, if you guys remember, this is my ticket. And I just couldn't move. I couldn't move because in order to go claim your prize, you had to stand up, walk across the dance floor, and then go to the front of the stage and, verify your ticket was the ticket that they had called out. They call it out one more time. And I'm freaking out. I'm starting to sweat. I'm thinking, I can't get up. There are too many people here. My parents are looking at me like, do you have the ticket? Do you have the ticket? And I keep nodding my head. No, I don't have the ticket. I don't have the ticket. And the way my dad was looking at me and my mom was looking at me, I just knew that they knew that I had the ticket. Why they didn't just go up and grab the ticket from me and then claim the prize themselves? I think it was part of a greater lesson that they were trying to teach me. They call it out one more time and they're saying, does anybody have ticket number 2? I do have ticket number 2, but I'm not letting anybody know. I'm even hiding it from my friends because I'm thinking if they see that I have the ticket, they're going to make me stand up and go claim my prize. And I'm thinking that cannot happen. Whatever I do, I cannot stand up in front of all of these people, especially these boys, all of my classmates parents. I cannot stand in front of all of these people. It was probably a room of about maybe 100 to 150 people, which is still a big room, but not that bad. It's really not that bad, especially because half of the people are probably not even paying attention. They said, nobody's here to claim number 2. Okay, let's call on the next one. On my way home, my parents asked me to see my ticket and I refused to show it to them. I told them, I don't have the ticket. I do not have the ticket. They asked me for the ticket. And then when we were about to get home, I fessed up. I confessed. I said, I did have ticket number 2. And they both turned around and they looked at me and they said, yeah, we know. Why didn't you go up there? And it was like one of the very first times where I didn't really have an answer. And I wanted to say that it's because I didn't want to stand up in front of people, but I knew how ridiculous that sounded. And from that moment forward, there were so many different situations where I put myself in that same exact position. I put myself in the position of being so shy that I was stopping myself from receiving things, from getting opportunities, from speaking up. It took me about 15 years, maybe longer, until I finally realized, like, snap out of it, dude. Snap out of it. You have to put yourself first. You have to be a little bit more confident in yourself. And it's funny because I've always made jokes, like, oh, I'm so perfect, or, if I could be anybody else in the world, I would still choose to be me. And it's always made my parents laugh and my friends laugh, my boyfriend laugh. But deep down, I know that was just kind of like a coping mechanism, that I really didn't believe that. And I also deal with a lot of my emotions with humor. So again, we will not get into that until a later episode because I don't even know why I do that. My shyness was always just really holding me back. And when I stopped being shy and I stopped caring of what people thought of me was in 2019, after I had graduated college. Not college. When I had graduated high school and I no longer really cared about what people at high school thought about me. Because when I moved from Arizona to Texas, I moved my freshman year, and 14 to 18-year-olds are scary people. And when you are that age, it just feels like you are being thrown into the shark pit. And I came from knowing everyone and having a relationship with almost everyone in my class to suddenly not knowing a single person. I had never even been to Texas when I moved. So I reverted back to being extremely shy. Any progress I had made in those couple of months that I had started high school in Arizona, I was suddenly back to square one. And I was suddenly nobody again. And so I really wanted to keep it that way. And my shyness overtook me for 4 years. I was on the dance team, and that was the only time that I actually put myself in front of people. And I don't really know the logic behind speaking in front of a group of like 5 people versus performing in front of an audience of 200. Why I was more comfortable with performing in front of a larger group of people versus talking to people. I think it had to do with, being perceived and not letting people know. I guess when you're dancing and when you're performing, it's just that, it's a performance. You're not showing any true parts of you, maybe your talents, but you're not showing anybody the inside, the real you. And when you're speaking to somebody, you're worried about, how do I sound? How do I look? What are people thinking about me? Yada, yada, yada. The list goes on. And so I kept it that way for 4 years. And then I got to college. I uploaded my very first YouTube video. The only reason why I uploaded it was because it was a school project. It didn't have to be a video. I don't remember exactly what it was an essay, but we had to show the essay in a way that wasn't just pen and paper or typed out. So I decided, okay, well, storytelling, I can do a storytelling vlog and take me and my 2 friends to the island, and I am going to make a documentary, a vlog, if you will, on the sea turtle sanctuary there at South Padre Island. And I took it as my opportunity to kind of like go full force on this thing. I didn't even have a camera. I asked my best friend to borrow hers, and she said, yeah, of course, you can take my camera. I had my G7X, or her G7X. I recorded the entire vlog going there. I remember filming when we were at the island. And even though I was scared shitless and I was so uncomfortable with the fact that I was vlogging and I was being recorded in public by other people and other people were able to see me, I kind of like broke out of my shell that day. It was a very interesting feeling. When I got back, I went straight to editing. I could not wait. I didn't even have a MacBook. I had a really old, really slow, like Dell laptop or something. And I couldn't get Final Cut Pro. I couldn't get Adobe Premiere Pro. I couldn't get any of the softwares that normal video editors use. I mean, I had to get this like really cheap. I don't know if it's still around. And if you're watching this, sorry for calling you cheap, but it was the only option I had available on my laptop, and it was called Filmora, and I had the free version. And I remember watching YouTube videos on how to kind of like do the foundation editing, and then I would go back in and then see how I could add effects and text and what have you. And I got really, really into it that time. And after that, I started posting pretty consistently. Then I started going into vlogging, and I was vlogging in front of my friends. It was another thing that was like extremely, at the time, I could not believe that I was doing it, because to be talking in front of a camera in public and then in front of people that you know was something that was so strange to me. And even now, even after so many years of me filming, and my friends know that I create content and that it's what I do for a living, the thought of my friends like having to hear me speak or do an intro to a vlog still gives me the heebie-jeebies, because it's so cringe. But I kind of gave myself exposure therapy in that way, and I couldn't be super, super shy. Now, I was more reserved in the classroom setting, but when I was in front of a camera, when I had to take photos or what have you, I was a little bit more willing to participate. So I've kind of got I have it down when it comes to being in front of the camera. I just kind of like take on a new persona and pretend like I do not care, even though I just spent the last 15 minutes telling you that whenever my family is here, I kind of shy away. It's really different from who I used to be. And I know that I have so much more to grow and to learn and to do before I even say that I am officially a reformed shy girl. So this is that journey, and sharing with you guys like maybe like one thing a week that I did that put me out of my comfort zone and that little shy Jackie would have never done. And I feel like every single week I've already been doing that, where I push myself to be a better version of myself, a version of myself that is no longer shy, that no longer shies away from opportunities, and who is open to receiving blessings and what have you. So like I said, I am really, really excited and really looking forward to going on this journey with you guys. And if you guys are watching this or listening to this, this is episode 1, and I don't even know like where this is going to take me. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening to this. And if you've made it to the end of this episode, thank you times 1,000, because you truly believe that I was worth your time. And you guys, whether you believe it or not, you're watching me, you're supporting me, you believe that I can do it. So if you guys have any podcast episode suggestions, if you want to hear any particular stories, I have so many stories that I've accumulated over the last 25 years that I feel I finally have a space to come on here and share with you guys. I don't know, I really want to make my next episode a travel like update, not travel update, like a travel recap of my trip to London, because it was my very first time traveling overseas, and it was one for the books, definitely. I didn't go there to vacation or anything like that. I went on a work trip, and it was honestly a lot more crazy than I could have expected. And again, this was one of those things where shy girl me 10 years ago would have never taken that opportunity to go to London by herself. I did go with the client and her family, but by myself, without my friends, without my family, and to put myself in a position where I actually had to level up. So I do want to film that episode soon. I've also gone to, this year actually did quite a good amount of travel. I went to New York this year for my birthday, and that was my second time going. My first time I was invited. Yes, I was invited to New York City to be part of a campaign with Express. And if you know anything about me, you know that Express is part of my lore, and it is ultimately the reason why I kind of like pursued content creation full time, because I had such a great experience working with Express when they had a ambassador program. And yeah, I went to New York and I met some really cool, famous people. I once filmed an episode of this where I wanted to upload it to my YouTube channel and like make it a story time about my experience basically being treated as a celebrity myself never gotten that type of pampering, and I don't know if I ever will again, but I want to share it with you guys because when I went to New York and I came back, I had so many friends asking me questions about the entire experience, and it's something that I never really like took in until many, many years later. It's already been like 2 or 3 years since I went. I went in August of 2022. So it's been 3 years since I went for the very first time. And that experience was amazing. And I do not want to forget all of the details that I didn't vlog about or I didn't take photos about. And when I recount the stories to my friends, like something always pops up where I'm like, oh, I forgot to add this happened. And then we went here and then this happened. And then I said this to this person. So I really want to have that in like a audio recording type of way so that when I'm older and I'm pruny and I can not remember things, I will listen back to my voice and I want to recount these stories and then just tell it with you guys because it was honestly a crazy experience that to this day I'm just kind of shocked that I was part of it. And I'm so thankful and I give thanks to God every single day that He has blessed me with so many different opportunities like this. And I do have so many stories from getting beat up at the club to some of my friends saying some really hurtful things and how that, really affected me and how I've been rejected many, many times at work and how I've had many people doubt me for various different things. And, if I just let it get to me, I probably wouldn't have this podcast. But now I have a platform, like I said, to share all of my crazy stories, my not crazy stories, my sad stories, my happy stories, and even I want to do, okay, hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. If you guys are listening to this or if you guys are watching this, I don't know what your preference is, but if you guys have any sort of suggestions on how to go about these episodes, please let me know because I would love to get you guys involved in one way or another. I'm thinking reading your guys' stories. I love when podcasts do, send me your most embarrassing story or send me the nicest thing you've ever done to somebody or the nicest thing that anybody has ever done to you. I love those stories. I love reacting to them. I love listening to them. So if you guys have any sort of like themes, like most embarrassing Hinge story, or I don't know, just something, I'll think of it. But follow me on Shy Girl Speaks podcast on Instagram and also subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me wherever you listen to your podcast because I want to get you guys involved in one way or another, whether it's like, even if you guys have advice, like I want to do a segment where I give you guys my big sisterly advice or maybe my shy girl advice. I want to get you guys involved. I want you guys to look forward to listening to these episodes because I'll answer a question or I will read your story. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to the very first episode of Shy Girl Speaks. I don't think this was perfect by any means, but I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm glad that you guys are part of the very first episode because I can't wait to look back on this episode in a year's time, in 2 years' time, and really think to myself, wow, that really sucked. I'm glad I'm better now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for watching. That is watching and listening in one word. Loki, can we kind of make that a thing? Thank you guys so much for watching this audio, video, podcast, whatever you want to call it. Make sure to follow me on Shy Girl Speaks Pod on Instagram and subscribe to me on YouTube because that is where I will be uploading new episodes every single week. And if you guys want, go ahead and follow me on my personal page to see every other shenanigan I'm ever up to. I will see you guys next week with episode 2 of Shy Girl Speaks. Bye.